to the Challenge to Change podcast. My name is Hazel, and this podcast is all about the little changes we can all make that will have a positive effect upon planet Earth. If you're new here, welcome. If you've listened before, welcome back. The Challenge to Change podcast has been brought to you on behalf of Answer Environmental Services. To find out more, please visit ansa.co.uk. Let's get into the podcast episode. So welcome to this episode of the Challenge to Change podcast. So we have, of course, landed in 2025, and from my point of view, it really does feel like Christmas and celebrating the new year took place so long ago. Yet, as I record this episode, it is in fact only the 9th of January. In previous years, I have tended to opt for environmental easy wins as the first podcast of the year, because it can seem fairly overwhelming to choose environmental resolutions that are quite sort of onerous or quite large. However, there is only so many easy wins that we can put in place for planet Earth. Thus, by association, there's only so many possible kind of easy resolutions that I can create. So, with that in mind, for this year, I want to share some New Year resolution inspiration that is a little bit more expansive, that kind of encourages us really to step it up for planet Earth. Of some easy wins, do check out episode 52 and episode 19 of the Challenge to Change podcast. Those podcast episodes are audio only, and they're available on Spotify, Podbean, Alexa, and a whole host of other places, but you won't find those episodes on YouTube if you're watching me on YouTube. I will pop a link to those episodes in the description of this one. Right, so let's talk about 2025 and planet Earth. Before we glide into the resolutions, let's talk about why they matter. As we've noted before on the Challenge to Change podcast, actions create a ripple effect. Small, consistent actions by individuals and communities really can lead to systemic change. Imagine if millions of people resolved to use less plastic, switched to renewable energy, or embarked upon a pre-loved fashion revolution. When many people make changes, those goals aren't just personal goals, they're not just individual actions, they are the building blocks of collective progress. Indeed, if you head over to your search engine, whichever one you choose to use, and you type in "how does social change happen," you will of course receive a variety of results. But weaved into those results, you will notice that one of the inputs that create social change is of course the people of planet Earth. Changes don't just happen to us, they happen because of us, they happen through us. Now, let's get specific about those resolutions that we can adopt for 2025. And the first one is reduce your carbon footprint. And of course, most people will be no stranger to that idea. But there are a few things that we can do to help us achieve that. And here's a few options. Can you consider lift sharing to work? Can you use public transport for all or part of your journey? Can you choose to shop local, and can you perhaps walk there rather than using a car? Do you feel like cycling more for 2025? Or maybe you're considering an electric or hybrid vehicle. Of course, choosing something like that does have a big price tag attached, so make sure you do your research first. The Ethical Consumer website has some really useful information about cars that are more ethical. Switching to renewable energy is another option. If you're looking to change your energy supplier, it's worthwhile considering renewable energy. It may also be worthwhile heating your home with a heat pump. Solar panels are, of course, another idea. Before you do any of that, it's worthwhile visiting the Energy Saving Trust's website for tips and ideas. Just type Energy Saving Trust into your search engine. But just as a really simple solution to reduce or help to reduce your carbon footprint, you could just simply start by unplugging devices when they're not in use. So moving on to resolution 2, we can support generative practices. So the way that we can do that is considering buying from local farms that focus on soil health and biodiversity. We can consider planting native trees in our outside space, or we can start a home composting system. Moving on to resolution 3, we can support a circular economy. Now, we have talked about the circular economy on the Challenge to Change podcast before. And basically, to describe it again, the circular economy is an economic system which is based on the reuse and regeneration of materials and products. So, choosing to purchase pre-loved fashion is one of the ways that we can support a circular economy. You may recall Secondhand September, which is the well-known campaign that was started by Oxfam. You may also recall Keep Britain Tidy's Buy Nothing New Month, which took place in November. So all of these things are campaigns that encourage us to think about choosing pre-loved or second-hand rather than buying. Linking in with that, here is an example of purchasing pre-loved from my family life. I purchased a second-hand lava lamp for my daughter as part of her Christmas presents, and it works perfectly. I purchased the lava lamp with buyer protection so that I could be reassured that the lava lamp would work. And if it didn't, there would be things that I could do to rectify that within that buyer protection, but it does work perfectly. It was considerably less expensive than buying a new one. She's really happy with it, and so am I. So, there are things that we can do even for Christmas presents where we're thinking about purchasing secondhand. A circular economy also includes leasing items rather than buying them. So, for example, that could be a suit for a wedding, or it could even be something like a lawnmower. There are lots of options. Reusing, of course, is another example. Repairing is another example of supporting a circular economy. A broken item does not necessarily mean throwing away, of course, depending on what the item is. And in fact, throwing something into your black bin here in Cheshire East should, ideally, where possible, be something of a last resort. Of course, not everything can be fixed, so it is a case of balancing the decision. Ask yourself, is it safe for me to use? Is it safe for the environment? If it is, how can it be fixed? Can we look at using a repair cafe or a local repair service? Or can I perhaps safely fix it myself? Is another question that we can ask ourselves. Of course, within these situations, that we may also have to consider the cost of fixing versus the cost of replacing. But it is worthwhile asking those questions. So here's another personal example of circular economy activity within our household. I have a pair of boots which are probably now about 7 or 8 years old, and I regularly get the soles replaced. They were quite expensive when I bought them, and regardless of that, really, it makes sense for me to keep on using those boots for as long as they last. And it is the soles that tend to go on footwear much faster than any other part of the boot or shoe. So it is worthwhile considering using a shoe repair service to get them repaired rather than choosing to dispose of them in some way. So moving from those just three examples of resolutions for the environment for 2025, you can find more ideas on supporting a circular economy online. And here's a few places to consider checking out. The first one is www.ellenmacarthurfoundation.org, and then simply just type into the search area on that website, what is a circular economy? Another option is to head to the Friends of the Earth's website and search for zero waste. Or for something a little bit more fun, you can search for the word lazy on their website and you will find their 7 lazy ways to be more environmentally friendly. Finally, sticking with the circular economy, why not head to WRAP's website, which is www.wrap.ngo, or you can simply type the words WRAP with a W into your search engine, head to their website and search for the words circular economy, and you will find lots of really useful, inspirational information there. So maybe despite all of this list of aims and those websites for extra motivation doesn't actually feel that motivational. And I can understand why. It is pretty hard to feel motivated when the weather is cold and the landscape looks snowy but rather bleak. However, on the 9th of January here in the UK, we actually have 7 hours and 55 minutes of daylight. And by the 31st of January, that figure will have increased to 9 hours and 6 minutes. And it just keeps increasing until around the 21st of June. So, with that in mind, perhaps we can find some motivation there. For a little bit more motivation, it is worthwhile checking out this website, which is www.greendreamer.com, and search for the word sustainable. There is some fantastic information there, including some organisations that have created positive environmental changes for planet Earth. I really hope that you will employ some environmental resolutions for 2025, and I hope that you will find a way to commit to them wholeheartedly. If you do, please do share your resolutions and ideas in the comments section for this podcast episode. I would absolutely love to read them. So let's make 2025 a year of transformation for ourselves and for the planet. Do feel free to like and share this episode, and of course I would be really grateful if you would also consider subscribing. Any positive feedback for the Challenge to Change podcast does help more people to find it, and in turn it helps all of us to make a difference for planet Earth. Bye for now.